Hello, and welcome to another episode. Todd Talks, and Todd Talks people listen. Hopefully. Like that, the Phoenix pose, the classic. Never mind. So today we have a very interesting death battle between Phoenix, aka Jean Grey of Marvel Comics, and Raven, aka Raven, from DC Comics. Yes, it's bird battle. Obviously, this is a little more complicated than that. But, yeah, this is a fight that, honestly, Death Battle has teased in various ways over the years, but they weren't sure if it would apply or whether it'd be interesting. And it may not seem it, but Raven versus Twilight Sparkle was 5 years ago. Okay? I feel so old. But I shall move on. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And I know what you're thinking, that certain characters have certain things that might tip the battle in their favor. I'll get to them. I went deep into this one, okay? So, let's get started with Phoenix. So, what is the Phoenix Force? Well, it's, like all things in comics, incredibly complicated and convoluted. But let's start with the basics, alright? When the universe was created, like literally created, the Phoenix was born from the void between life and death. It was a residual effect of the universe being created, and thus it is a primordial entity. It is something that outlives and outlasts and outpowers many of the mightiest parts of the Marvel universe. For example, you might know about the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal came after the Phoenix. They were a byproduct of the creation of the universe, while the Phoenix was created during its creation because of the void between life and death. So and they fear the Phoenix. So that already shows you, a little bit of scaling here. So, but for the longest time, the Phoenix Force was anything but a phoenix. It was just a force, an infinite force of life, death, and rebirth, like the Phoenix of Greek mythology. But it didn't take its form until it met a warrior in the Shi'ar Empire, which is infinitely ironic for those who know comic lore. And eventually, it would inhabit that host, be cast out of that host, become eternally feared by the Shi'ar Empire, go to Earth, where it would meet a magician named Pharaon, who, after reading his mind, took the form of the Phoenix. So that's why it became the Phoenix Force. But just then, in that part of its life, it was already doing incredible feats, because Pharaon asked the Phoenix for some help. What kind of help? Well, it asked Pharaon to help. Pharaon asked the Phoenix Force to help him create and place a tower, a lighthouse, throughout the multiverse. And it did it. It did it. And that lighthouse would become the home base of Excalibur. So, yeah, that was just what it was doing like a million years ago. Alright? And eventually it would become bonded with several red-headed women over the years, not the least of which is Firehair from 1 billion BC, who was one of the first Avengers, the Stone Age Avengers, who fell in love with Odin. We are not getting into that storyline. Oh my gosh, we are not getting that storyline. You want to talk about maddening comic arcs? Do not look up what happened with Phoenix, Odin, and Thor. Oh my gosh, it is so bad. It's so bad they're already getting rid of it. So, yeah, don't look into that. But that was one of its hosts. And then there was a red-headed monk from Kunlun who inhabited and actually was able to control the Phoenix Force, but then she departed the Earth out of fear of potentially destroying it. And then eventually it became bonded with the one and only Jean Grey. So why Jean Grey? Well, it's never actually explained why Jean is the perfect host for the Phoenix, when I just mentioned that the Phoenix Force has already had a fascination with red-headed women. Not that I judge. Redhead women are awesome. I know of you myself. Anyway, I do actually. They're great. But when Jean was young, if you remember the Death Battle preview, she experienced her best friend's death because of her mutant ability. When that happened, the Phoenix Force felt her from another realm. She felt Jean's mind in pain in another realm. Instantly was connected with her. Eventually, during that space mission that was also in the preview, Jean was dying, like straight up dying, and she sent out like a mental projection for help, and guess who answered? The Phoenix Force, obviously. And the Phoenix Force said, "Take my hand," because that's never a bad deal. "Take my hand, and I'll give you your heart's desire." Well, her heart's desire, Jean's desire, was to save the X-Men herself and the people she was trying to save on that shuttle. So the Phoenix did that and gave her everything she wanted, with one catch. Remember the end of the preview where like it wasn't actually Jean Grey? So yeah, the Phoenix Force, to save Jean Grey, literally copied her body, took her memories, or like copied her memories, I should say, and took a part of her soul, and then put the actual Jean Grey, who was like seriously deformed by radiation poisoning, and put her in a cocoon in the bottom of Jamaica Bay. And then Phoenix Jean, let's call her that, lived out Jean's life for a long period of time. The Dark Phoenix saga, that was fake Jean. That was Phoenix Jean. Okay? Yeah. It was really trippy going through Phoenix's backstory. And that's still only the start. Because eventually, obviously, that Phoenix Jean dies. And then eventually real Jean was reborn, and guess what? The Phoenix went back to her. Also going into Madeline Pryor, we're not digging in that one either. And also Rachel Summers. And Scott Summers, not getting that one just yet. But if you're seeing a pattern here, the Phoenix has a thing about rising up, being all-powerful, dying, and then rebirthing in another host. That's literally its thing. It's a literal Phoenix Force. It'll die, and then it'll be reborn. The realm that the White Phoenix lives in is called the White Hot Room. Great name. And that is housed within the Macron Crystal. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. The Macron Crystal. And that is the nexus of all realities, which is why you technically can't kill the Phoenix, because it is within all realities. Everything is touched by the Phoenix Force. And as a result of that, it's really hard to kill. The Avengers, the Shi'ar Empire, the X-Men, their enemies, all of them have at one point or another tried to kill the Phoenix Force. It never works. And the Phoenix, by its own admission, is most powerful when it's with Jean Grey. She even told Professor Xavier one time, "It's the only house I live in," or something like that effect. But so it really likes Jean, even though Jean, like actual Jean, has a very complicated relationship with the Phoenix, to the point where when Phoenix actually resurrected Jean at one point, Jean straight up said, "I can live without you. I don't need you. You needed to be with someone else." And then the Avengers had a battle royale with the various other characters to get the Phoenix Force. Not diving into that one either, because that's also already rewritten, so whatever. But let's focus here on the abilities of the Phoenix Force, because even in its primordial form, like its true entity form, without a host, it is capable of wiping out the universe. As they said in the preview, it will eventually consume the entire universe. It's what its destiny is, but it's going to let life happen until it comes to that point. But it also longs in many ways to understand what life is beyond just creating it and destroying it, which is why she's had a fascination with Jean and the X-Men over the years, because at one point she wanted to be it. I keep saying she, but because it's always attached to female hosts, except for two times. It wanted to understand what love was, like well and truly. So it would attach itself to Jean, to Emma, to Scott, and others to understand that feeling and more. But that also created the problem, because the Phoenix is primordial and humans are not. So when you have human emotions driving a primordial entity, things go bad. Enter the Dark Phoenix. The Dark Phoenix is specifically stated to be its most uncontrollable form. It is almost unstoppable. It is entirely black-hearted, and while the pure Phoenix, not White Phoenix, pure Phoenix is meant to be the embodiment of life and death, Dark Phoenix is the entity of destruction. It was in this form that it totally roasted a star that killed a planet. Excuse me. Roasted a star that killed a planet, and it forever set off war between the Shi'ar Empire and the Phoenix Force, which would play out in many ways over the years, not the least of which is them coming to Earth and fighting the X-Men multiple times over. And this is what would lead to various versions of Jean Grey dying over and over and over again, just to try and stop the Phoenix Force temporarily so that it could stop the Phoenix Force so it couldn't destroy everything. And but it would never ever stay down. It would always come back in one form or the other, and every single time it would take a massive force or collection of forces to put down the Phoenix Force. For example, at one point, Scott Summers actually became the Phoenix Force via Avengers vs. X-Men, and then via Time Runs Out and Secret Wars, not War, Wars, and the only thing that could kill him was a Doctor Doom that was fully powered by the Molecule Man, who he basically held control of the multiverse. That's how powerful Doom was. That it was the power it took to take out a White Phoenix, was being fully powered by the multiverse. Yeah, he also killed Thanos incredibly easily. It was hilarious. Let's see. Also, there was okay. When it comes to the Phoenix Force, especially Jean Grey Phoenix, all her powers are amplified. Her telekinesis, her telepathy, and more. And because she's now fused with the Phoenix, at least in body. We'll get to the other part later. Because of the body, fused with the body, she gains new powers. For example, she can teleport across dimensions. The Phoenix Force will fold upon itself like a black hole and then go to wherever it wants. When it was with Rachel Summers, it traveled through time just by saying the words Dark Phoenix, or having Kitty Pryde say the words Dark Phoenix. It can reconstitute things at the atomical level, including turning a tree into gold, which may or may not have been the gold tree that Beast had to lift, or did not fully lift. It once changed Cyclops' clothes so that it would look like his costume, and of course it can wipe out entire planets, destroy lives on a whim, and more. And then there is its ultimate form, Phoenix of the White Crown, or White Crown Phoenix, one of those two, Phoenix of the White Crown. This is when Jean Grey and the Phoenix merge fully. I'm talking mind, body, and soul. Technically, it's not even a body. It is a completely fused form, and it is in this form, which has been comic canon, that Phoenix/Jean held the universe in the palm of her hands and was able to rewrite reality to whatever she wanted. Now, at the time, she had two choices. You could heal the universe, or you can destroy the universe. Jean chose to heal it and actually rewrote the timeline so that certain things could happen, including Cyclops having a relationship with Emma Frost. Don't ask. Just don't. Those three. Oh my gosh. And don't even throw in Wolverine. I'm not even good. I've always hated that relationship. Scott and Jean forever, ladies and gentlemen. So that is the scale here. When she goes Phoenix of the White Crown, she is fully omnipotent, fully omnipresent. It's bonkers. All right, it is total universe domination in whatever way, and no one can touch her because her, as in Jean, because she wills who can be in that area within the white hot room. That name. She wills who can and cannot be in the white hot room, and then she can determine whatever she wants to do with the universe. That's the power of the Phoenix. Like I said, comics are crazy, man, and it takes. And while the Phoenix has been defeated various times over the years, including Jean Grey herself using Wolverine with his consent to kill her over and over again because that would weaken the Phoenix. That's the level of just insanity that you have to do. Not to mention other times it wasn't the full Phoenix; it was a part of the Phoenix. It was a fragment of the Phoenix. It's specifically said that multiple times, multiple people have had the Phoenix in fragment form, never in full form. So a lot of the feats you can take from Jean have actually not been full power for one reason or another, not the least of which is that Jean, Professor Xavier, and others have put mental blocks in her head to ensure that she doesn't use the full power of the Phoenix Force. So, yeah, it's another one of those cases where, the Phoenix Force is as powerful as it needs to be. Thank you, Superman. So, good luck trying to stop her. Almost said a swear word because I was going to do another fusion, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, we will go to Raven, who is honestly one of my favorite DC comic characters ever. You might remember my prediction video 5 years ago. I feel so old. But her story is very well known, but I will recap it here. She was the daughter of I just forgot her mother's name, but she called herself Arella eventually, who was basically tricked into sleeping with Trigon. Don't ask. And when she was eventually saved by monks of the planet known as Azeroth. And once Raven was born, it was a very bad day for them because it almost destroyed their planet, apparently. And they decided that we have to train this girl so that A, she doesn't destroy the universe, and B, she does not bring her father to this dimension. Because, and don't ask me how, she is basically the conduit for Trigon's arrival on Earth. When she was destined, in one form or another, to bring Trigon to our plane, because he was trapped in an interdimensional prison, okay? And through sleeping with his mother, don't ask, he created a child that could bring him. Yeah, she's the cheat code, okay? But the monks of Azeroth trained her to not feel emotions and to not wield her emotions in a meaningful way, so that she could not get angry enough and thus corrupted enough to bring Trigon to the world. So that is a lot to put on a child. Thank you, adults. Ugh. You know what I mean, right? So, as Rachel Roth, I prefer just calling her Raven, as she eventually went to Earth to try and stop it from being destroyed by Trigon and his forces, including his many sons and followers. But and to do this, she eventually was a founder / creator of the new Teen Titans, in which she became one of their most invaluable members, and would eventually strike up a long-term on-again, off-again, on-again, off-again, on-again, off-again relationship with Beast Boy. And by the way, in comics right now, it's on again. Oh yeah. They also got married, and it's non-canon now. Sorry, Boomstick. So her greatest ability, though, is her empath powers. Through the use and control of emotions, she can project and control certain things, including using telekinesis, telepathy, dimensional travel, and so on and so forth. And of course, there is her soul self, which is the manifestation of basically the corruption that Trigon has within her that will eventually bring him into the world, if she doesn't keep control. Again, a lot of pressure to put on the kid. But she, through her many incarnations, animated versus comics and so on, she has learned to wield these in battle incredibly and help her teammates in numerous ways. She is by and large one of the most popular Titans, and the one that they often use when they're remaking the Titans comics, including in the current DC universe, where the Titans are the new version of the Justice League. Don't ask. I used to say, it's comics, everybody, but now it's just, don't ask. All right. So, and actually, in the comics, she actually doesn't say Azarath, Metreon, Zenthos, but we're going to use it anyway because, gosh dang it, it's iconic. Thank you, Tara Strong. So, her various powers include, telepathy, where she can lift various objects. She can use your emotions against you, either turning them up or turning them down, including straight up making you feel emotionally numb, which for me is just a Monday. I kid. It's Tuesday. Anyway, wait a minute, isn't that today when I'm filming this? That's right, I'm filming it a day early because I have stuff to do on Wednesday. You're welcome. But she can manipulate you on an emotional level. She can manipulate you on a mental level by erasing your memories, making you see illusions, and so on and so forth. And through her telekinesis, she can lift a lot of objects. She once actually evacuated an entire hospital full of people because the building was on fire. So why not? And then through her soul self, as we saw in the Twilight Sparkle matchup, she can use that as a battering ram, use it to fly, though she cannot technically fly on her own, and use it to travel between dimensions, including trapping people in a dimension of infinite darkness. Not creepy at all. Not even a little bit. Darkness! Parents are dead! Lego movie, everybody, look it up. The first one, not Lego Batman. I guess Lego Batman was good too. I've never seen it though, but I've heard good things. So, given her story, it was inevitable that Trigon would come to the world, and in fact, she was eventually overwhelmed and brought Trigon to the world in multiple timelines and continuities. So, not the least of which is the amazing Teen Titans cartoon where she summoned Trigon and he instantly destroyed the world and everything in it, except for the Teen Titans who would eventually bring him down. Or the DC animated universe where similar things happen. So, like that was the movie universe, just saying. Where was I? Oh yeah, Trigon. So Trigon is specifically stated to be a multiversal level threat, if not a just high level universal threat. All right, he is so powerful that even beings like Darkseid have trouble against him, as we've seen in the animated movie universe. So Raven taking him down in any context is impressive because Trigon has easily destroyed planets, corrupted worlds, turned people into his minions, summoned and created minions. If you remember the Teen Titans cartoon, he created like the negative versions of the Teen Titans, and that's the level of power he wields. So again, Raven beating Trigon is infinitely impressive, and she does that on the regular. In fact, in many timelines, she has been freed from Trigon's influence to the extent where she can now live a free life and have complete complete control of her powers. But there is a catch. There's always a catch. First of all, while her soul self is powerful and it can work on its own, as they know in the Twilight Sparkle battle, hurting it hurts Raven. Second, while her empath powers are powerful, it has a limit, and usually the limit is negative emotions, because as an empath, she tackles these emotions head on to use and do what she needs to do, what she wants to do. So if you're tackling a lot of negative emotions, it overtaxes her, it drains her, let's just call it her energy really quickly, which is why in comics and in animated series, she often passes out from dealing with such negative emotions too much. But with positive emotions, it doesn't take as much of an effect. So she is an incredibly powerful sorceress with various magical abilities, not to mention her empath powers. But she has to be infinitely careful. Even without the threat of Trigon looming over her, she has to be careful, because if she loses control, it can spell disaster. And in fact, it has caused disaster outside of Trigon in many different cases, including her body being taken over multiple times, having her soul transported to another body, almost married by blood. Don't ask. And so much more. And again, the on again, off again relationship with Beast Boy. Like, just keep them together. We all want it. Come on. So, but again, Raven is awesome. She, no matter what almost no incarnation. The New 52 version was bad. I mean, the bad design, the instantly corrupted version of Rachel Roth, which is why I prefer to call her Raven. It wasn't the best. But when you look beyond those dark times, pun intended, she has taken on some of the best and worst the DC universe has had to offer. She has been there for her friends, for her true family, over and over again, and she can casually destroy the universe if she desires. Quote the Raven, nevermore. Can I go home now? I have not met Tara Strong, but if I do, I will praise the altar of Raven that is before me. I guarantee it. Anyway, so who wins in a fight between Raven and Dark Phoenix, or Phoenix, or White Phoenix, or Phoenix with White Crown? Now, some of you might be shouting, but wait, Todd! Wait a minute! You forgot the most important part of Raven! Oh, I did? No, I didn't. Some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, what about Unkindness Raven? In DC Future State, Raven gets a new power boost that makes her basically the embodiment of all darkness and destruction and death in the universe, to the point where it went to the 83rd century at the vanishing point, which is the end of everything, and consumed it. Comics, everyone. Why am I not including Unkindness Raven, and which has also been seen in the Titans versus Teen Titans Go animated movie, which is probably better than it should have been, but still, Teen Titans Go, oh my gosh. Lady Legacy, watch out! That was a funny episode. That show is really dumb, though. I mean, I have a limit, and that's the limit, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, so why am I not including Unkindness Raven? Simply put, it's not Raven. Okay? Now, you might be thinking, but wait a minute, Phoenix isn't technically Jean Grey. Jean Grey is just the host. Yes, but Phoenix Jean Grey is specifically stated, as I noted, to be the one true Phoenix. Phoenix of the Right Crown only can happen with Jean Grey. It has to happen with no one else. It is only Jean Grey. So, But in contrast, as stated in DC Future State, and I looked this up just to be sure, Raven does not become the unkindness naturally. In a mission to the underworld, because why not, she actually absorbs the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, taking their souls and putting them into her. Doing this made her much more susceptible to corruption, so she had to be trapped into the Rock of Eternity by Shazam, who stood watch until he couldn't anymore, and then a whole bunch of bad stuff happened, and basically in the universe. And then in the present day, which kind of still is leading towards Future State, it's really not. Future State was weird. And it didn't really matter. Like, why did you do this? Anyway, so Unkindness Raven has not happened, and is technically non-canon. Not to mention, is the embodiment of outside help, because she would need to absorb the 4 souls of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, which she does not do on the regular, versus the Phoenix Force, which goes to Raven, or to Jean Grey on the regular. Clear? Okay. So, who wins between Phoenix and Raven? Now, I will admit that, especially compared to the Twilight Sparkle episode, Raven is much more powerful than we give her credit for. Her soul self is insanely powerful, and they were lowballing it for the Twilight Sparkle episode by their own admission, because they didn't understand how much mass it had, so they just said, like, let's just lowball and say Ravens. Anyway, both can technically destroy universes. That's fine. That's very equal. They both can erase each other's memories. They technically can affect each other's souls, and they have certain defenses against certain things. Like, again, this is very much a case of they're only as powerful as the comics determine them to be. Because Raven on the regular is not shown to be as powerful as Trigon, and yet it's usually Raven who beats Trigon, who again is a universal or multiversal threat. So why is it that I feel that Phoenix beats Raven? Here's why. Phoenix is more consistently shown to be universe level on a whim, especially with Jean Grey at the helm. And this doesn't even take into account Dark Phoenix or Phoenix of the White Crown. Once we get into Phoenix of the White Crown, it's over. Alright, like legit. Like, forget White Raven, Dark Raven, which is obviously another parallel of Phoenix. Once she goes Phoenix of the White Crown, she literally holds the universe in her hand. And yes, I acknowledge that Raven has certain things that Phoenix / Jean Grey can't do, but just as many things Phoenix can do. For example, Jean Grey does have empathy powers. Again, she can also erase memories. Both can technically travel through time, though I'm pretty sure Phoenix does it on the regular more, because obviously that would be a big hacks for any Teen Titans Adventures. Oh, we screwed up this mission. Hey, Raven, take us back in time. And even Raven admits that it's not technically the powers as we determine them, but anyway. So Phoenix is more consistently shown to be universe level and beyond. A fragment of the Phoenix Force was once wielded by a villain who said that just the fragment was multiversal power, and the full one cannot be controlled, or is unfathomable power. Unfathomable power. Unfathomable power. Yeah, that. Unfathomable power. That's terrible to say. Wisps, right, Wiz? Bloopers, check it out, it's great. But more consistent power, and the big thing, and I really think they're going to lean into this, is that, remember, Raven gets hurt by negative emotions when she has to take them on. Dark Phoenix is all negativity. White Phoenix would be better, regular Phoenix would be fine, but once they go Dark Phoenix, which Raven might accidentally trigger by trying to force, negative emotions onto Jean, that's a wave of power of mental hatred that I don't think Raven can comprehend, even when compared to her father, who is a literal being of hatred. All right, and I'm pretty sure she's never defeated him by trying to absorb all his negative emotions. So, not to mention the Phoenix can reconstruct her on a molecular level, which Raven can do to an extent, but again, not to the level and consistency of Phoenix. So what this really is a case of is that anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. Yeah, you can. Yes, I can. No, you can't. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Okay. So, while I adore Raven with all my heart, Blackheart, this really is a case. I just realized I'm wearing the wrong shirt. This is absolutely a case of the Phoenix just being more than Raven can handle. So I'm picking Phoenix to win this fight. With that, I'm in this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Phoenix and Raven. Let me know, and what do you expect of the battle? Let me know in the comments below. So, I thank you for watching. Maze Far, I know you were listening, and I'll see you around.